This is Eli White,
Willie Calhoun,
Dane Dunning,
Nick Solak,
Joey Gallo,
this is Isaiah Kiner-Fleffa.
This is Chris Woodward.
This is Kyle Gibson with the Texas Rangers, and you're listening to the Texas Ranger Fanatic podcast with Alex Plink.
Alex Plink.
With Alex Plink.
with Alex Plink,
Alex Plink,
with Alex Plink,
Alex Plink.
With Alex Plink.
What's going on, Rangers Nation? It's Alex Plink with Dallas Sports Fanatic, and this is the Texas Rangers Fanatic podcast, episode 25. It's been a while. It's been a real while. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the last episode that was recorded was kind of under the same circumstance as far as, well, no, I'm thinking of the sweep of the Astros where the Rangers went to Anaheim. We'll get into all that later. It was actually the last recorded episode was with a good friend Dale Scott, which was during the San Francisco road trip, which started all of the road hubbub struggles, essentially the culprit of it. But yeah, it's been a while. I want to apologize to everybody listening out there who has listened to previous podcast episodes. You know, with the regular season going, with work schedule, with game days, it's tough. It kind of gets a little tough. Things just kind of pop up, and you know, when those kind of things just pop up, you get a little exhausted. You want to make sure all your ducks in a row, and sometimes your mind isn't quite in the right place, and that's kind of how the past few months have been, on days where it's like, you know what, I want to give you guys something. It's not 100%, and I feel like I'm not doing it a justice if it's not at 100%. And those article pieces are done, you know, they're not always done at one point. They're kind of pieced together. And things have been going pretty good. We're winding down to the month of June, winding down to the month of Pride Month. We'll get into that a little bit. And one other thing is that the Rangers in Oakland for this week, after Thursday, July 1st game, we will have reached the halfway point of the 2021 season. We have already played 60 games, so we've already surpassed last year, and it's so weird to think about. At this time in 2020 last year, there still wasn't even, not only did the regular season for 2020 didn't even start, but spring training 2.0 summer camp didn't even get underway, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was after the 4th of July when spring training 2.0 happened. I think it may have been during this time. I know it was after the 4th of July. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that it hadn't happened yet. But 2020, I think we could all just burn that from our memories for the most points. Talking about the Texas Rangers season. They are 30-48. Yes, that is not a good record. 30-48 is not good by any stretch. If it makes you feel a little better when you're comparing all of the last place teams in the league, that stacks up as third best among the last place teams, but you have to be really, really bad to compare to Arizona and Baltimore, who are having such miserable seasons. The Miami Marlins are 11 games under 500, and the Minnesota Twins are 10 games under 500, which is an odd Central Division considering the Rangers just swept Kansas City this past weekend, and yet the Royals still aren't in the cellar in their own division. That holds record to Minnesota, where you have Detroit, Kansas City, and Minnesota all in a three-way tie for cellar in the AL Central. The other thing in mind, the Rangers have played so much better this past week. They swept the Royals. They split with the Oakland A's. It's a homestand of 10 games between Minnesota, Oakland, and Kansas City, where, quite frankly, I thought coming in 5-5 would be kind of what to expect. I don't think 5-5 is the 5-5 that actually happened is what we all thought. My thought was you're going to take 2 of 3 from Minnesota. You're going to take 2 of 3 from Kansas City, and Oakland's going to take 3 of 4. Considering the A's have been a pretty good road team, they've been one of the better road teams in baseball. You actually split against Oakland. Your offense, which hadn't really done anything against Minnesota, so there was no purpose in my mind after going 0-3 to think that the Rangers would even put together a 4-2 stretch, if I'm doing my math correctly. Actually, 5-2, sorry. But they went ahead and did that. They went 5-2 against Oakland and Kansas City. Their offense spewed out in a big way. And the Rangers are going on a West Coast trip where, quite frankly, they need a win in the most desperate types of way. They did win the last time they hit the West Coast against the Dodgers. They won that 12-1 game. But outside of that, they are facing him against an A's team where in Oakland, the Rangers have had virtually no luck. And they're facing against Seattle, who they haven't beaten since 2019 in Seattle. If I'm trying to think about this off the top of my head, as far as West Coast teams, 0-4 against Seattle. They are 2-3 against the Angels in Anaheim. They have I think they have a 4-game series upcoming in Anaheim coming Labor Day weekend. 0-2 against San Francisco. And 1-2 against the Dodgers. And I guess if you want to throw in Colorado, 0-3 against the Rockies, though that's not really West Coast. But if you want to throw that in, they're about 3-14 against those types of West teams. 3-14. And even to put that to rest, 3-5, 3-14, 3-5 when it comes into the metropolitan of Los Angeles. What does that mean? Well, the Rangers just don't really play well on the West Coast. They don't play well in Houston either. Rangers are 0-6 in Houston. Bottom line is that everybody looking at this road trip kind of thinks back to the sweep of the Astros at home. Okay, you're facing against somewhat of a favorable schedule of the Angels, Mariners, and Rockies. You feel good about that. Now, I'm not saying the A's you feel good about, because the A's are second in the American League West and would be in the playoffs under even in the old system. In fact, they would be in the playoffs in the old system. I don't know what I'm talking about. They would be in the wild card game against Tampa Bay if the season would end today. So my question is that what difference are we talking about now than what a month ago starting a road trip to the West Coast? I think there are a little bit of differences. And one of those is the Rangers offensively put out a show in the 7 games against Oakland and Kansas City. There were a few games that their offense didn't. There was the Thursday afternoon game that they lost. The offense didn't really have much going. Credit to Chris Bassett of the A's for handling the Texas offense. That being said, the offense you feel a little bit better about. Adolis Garcia is doing Adolis Garcia things. We'll talk about him as far as all-star candidates. Joey Gallo has been hot, very hot in the lineup. Nate Lowe has been hot. So I think you look at this, and I think that Tuesday against the A's, if this offense can come out, and listen, even if they don't win on Tuesday and you lose maybe 6-5, your offense puts up 5 runs, and it's a battle one way or the other. I think you feel really good about the extra step that this team has taken. Because if you remember that Angels series, the starting pitching just flourished. It was awful. It just was not. Hung Jung Young and Dane Dunning were your 2 starters, and you look up, it was 4-0 after 1. It was 5-0 after 1. There was absolutely, I think the offense in that second game against the Angels heated up late and almost came back down 9-1, but I think they gave up like 20 runs in that 2-game series. So I'm curious to see how this offense comes out against Oakland. And that will determine, has this team taken the next step, taken some progress after the struggles that they've had. What's funny is that the Rangers are 10-27 on the road. That's awful. That's horrible. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts around it. That is a .270 win percentage. But the funny thing is, the absolute funny thing is that that's not even close from being the worst winning percentage on the road in Major League Baseball. .270. You're figuring, oh man, they're the worst team on the road. No, they're not. I think I don't have the full math to it, but I believe that is third worst. And the Orioles are 12-28, which is slightly better. But 10-27 isn't even the worst in baseball. In fact, it's not even close from being the worst in baseball. That lovely award so far goes to the Colorado Rockies, who are 6-31 away from Coors Field. 6-31. That is a winning percentage of .162. The Rockies are 31-47 on the season. That is, if I'm looking down at my winning percentage, third worst in the National League. They are 25-16 at Coors Field. 25-16. They are 9 games over 500 at home, but they are 16 games below 500 overall. Arizona, I think, snapped like a 22-game losing streak on the road the other day in San Diego. I think it was Saturday in San Diego. So, yeah, we can talk about the Rangers' road struggles, but it doesn't even compare to what some of these other teams are going through. So I don't know if there's anything to that with the way the road struggles are going, but just know, Ranger fans, that it's somewhat universal. It's not just a Texas Rangers thing. Now, they did have the worst road record last year, and they're third worst this year. So they just struggle playing away from Arlington. And, on the one hand, I could kind of have understood that at the Globe Life Park era. I know we've switched eras now, because you got the heat, you got the humidity, you're used to playing in that. As much as you hate it, you get used to it. And now all of a sudden, you play in different climates. It's a lot cooler. Yeah, it feels nice, but you're not used to it. Your body's not used to it. Your body's not used to the time change. So we'll see how this team favors in Oakland. Oakland and Seattle. Rangers may be having an advantage in Seattle, where the Mariners may be down one player off the roster after what happened Sunday in Chicago with former White Sox Hector Santiago, who got caught with something inside his glove. I don't think there's been a word on whether or not the suspension is actually going to happen. And I don't know if there's an appeal process. I don't think there's. I didn't hear that there would be an appeal process, but I would think that there may be. But we'll see if that'll affect the Rangers-Mariners series. I haven't heard anything right now. The Mariners are actually heading to Toronto. They'll be playing a series. I'm sorry, they're not heading to Toronto. They're heading to Buffalo. My apologies. They take on the Blue Jays. Gotta think we're in 2020, 2021. They're not in Toronto. They're in Buffalo. But let's get into a few things. We're at the end of June. That means AllStar Game. Congratulations to Adolis Garcia, who is now in phase 2 of voting to be determined for AllStar Game starters. He's one of 9 outfielders. He is the only Ranger position player to have moved on. I personally, I don't know if you guys know me on this, but AllStar voting, I think, is a complete and utter waste. I don't like it. I've never liked fan voting as a kid. You know, I would do it, and I would be somewhat, you know, I would be honest about my voting when I did it. I would vote for the guy that I felt would be the best represented. Even if it wasn't a Texas Ranger, I would go with, okay, this guy's got good stat. I'm going to put him in. You know, it doesn't matter what market he's in. I just don't like the fan voting because it's all it is a popularity contest. And that's all it is. And I'm going to complain about this about all 30 teams. The other thing is that, oh, you do all of this voting, well, here's some tickets. Like, there's consolation prizes. Like, you're bribing for a vote. Listen, Adolis Garcia deserves it. There's no question about that. And you look at up and down the line, and listen, I know that there's a lot to Mike Trout's name. I know there's a lot to Byron Buxton's name. And quite frankly, if both those guys weren't hurt for a bulk of the season, they probably would deserve it. But they're both on the injured list. People should not be voting for them, but they're going to get votes. And you hear about all of this conspiracy where, hey, let's vote for the injured guys because they're going to be hurt, and then other people will insert it in. There's conspiracies that are going. It's AllStar voting, okay? You get guys who have played in 8 games overall, and they have so many votes. Like, it's I don't want to get into politics. So I'm going to make this as loose as possible. But it is exactly like people in red states voting Republican and people in blue states voting Democrat, regardless of who the name is. You see that parentheses R or D, and you just vote for that person. You don't hear a word they say. You don't even know who they are. You probably don't even know their name. You just like, okay, they're a Republican, I'm going to vote for them. They're a Democrat, I'm going to vote for them. That's how this is. Oh, it's a Texas Ranger, I'm going to vote for him. Oh, it's a New York Yankee, he's in. And so you have guys, and I'm going to use this guy as an example because he is, to me, an all-star based on what he's been able to do. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. And listen, like, if Kiner-Falefa finished maybe 3rd or 4th in AL shortstops, I wouldn't have a problem with this. I think the problem that me and a lot of other people are having is that Izzy didn't even finish in the top 10, meaning to the whole baseball community, there are 10 shortstops who are having a better season than Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. That's what that's telling me. And that's bull. That is absolute bull. And that, to me, is why fan voting is a complete scarce. And so when you talk about when things get brought up of accolades, oh, this player, he's a 2-time All-Star, he's a 3-time All-Star, he started in the All-Star game a bunch. I say, who cares about that? That has absolutely no meaning. That's pointless. All that means is, oh, he's either on a good team or he's in a good market. But it has absolutely no bearing on this guy's abilities whatsoever. And you hope on the offhand chance that somebody gets injured and you're a replacement. And so you have guys like Isaiah who work their butts off every day. One of the top defensive players, not even shortstops, but defensive players in baseball. not even get consideration is absolutely travesty. I thought it was interesting because I actually asked this. Again, it's a beauty with protocols being somewhat lifted, because I love hearing what the people it affects, the players, how it affects, how do they like it. And it wasn't all unanimous. I'll be honest with you guys. I was a little surprised. It wasn't unanimous. Not all of them, they hate the idea of fans voting. Not all of them like it. I get between Isaiah, between Nick Solak, Joey Gallo, Dane Dunning, you have some that like it, some that hate it, and there's a way to kind of rearrange. I know in talking with Isaiah, he's like, listen, fan voting, you gotta have some stipulations on it. So maybe a minimum number of games, which I think is a little tricky because the voting process does go among a couple of weeks. I think it goes among a month, to be honest with you. And so you got to think about a minimum threshold where every player is going to be, where players, there won't be a point where they won't be qualified and then get qualified and stuff like that. Because ultimately, Major League Baseball is like, okay, ballot starts today, and then we'll follow up with updates, but everybody's still in play. So I think that kind of gets a little tricky unless you do kind of like what they're doing now, is have a cutoff and then start a whole new round. Unless you do it in rounds, and maybe you do top 5, then top 3 if you're talking about starters for a position. I think that's a lot. I think kind of Nick Solak the same way. You know, there's got to be maybe a happy medium that you can play. Don't know really what that is, but I kind of, if you are going to have it, I understand fans get to be interactive, and you get fans who get it right. Vlad Guerrero Jr. at first base. So it's not heavily dominated. I mean, the Blue Jays are not having the best season. They're about 3-4 games over 500. They're 4th place in the division. They're not even playing in their own home city. So I like that. I don't think the Tampa Bay Rays, I didn't see the full list, but I'm hoping at least one of the Rays made it to the next round. I didn't see one, which is, I find a bit disappointing. And of course, you've got certain players that move on that are part of, bad teams. And again, it's all about markets. It's all about popularity contests. And that's kind of what Joey Gallo said. And I 100%, if you're asking what my opinion is, I honestly am with Joey Gallo. Because being an all-star is a big deal. And to have it holding within individuals who not only haven't watched you play, but can't watch you play. And to be like, oh, hey, vote for an all-star. And you have different organizations, different teams that are giving away things. And again, that's what it is. It's bribery. It's bribery. It's dumb. It is absolutely dumb. So here's what Joey Gallo had to say regarding the fans voting for the All-Star game.
All-Star voting from fans should still be intact?
No, fans shouldn't. I love fans. They shouldn't be dictating guys' careers and awards like that. I think it should be strictly, look, I mean, I think we saw it a couple years ago, like with the Royals thing, where it was like the whole team was Royals. And it's like, at some point you're taking, these guys work their asses off every day, their whole lives to make an all-star game. It shouldn't be what fan base you play for and who gets the most votes and who's the popular vote. I really think it should be, who deserves to be there and who's earned the right to be there. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what team you play for,
I love it. I love the passion that Joey has. And I think part of it is because he lived it in 2019. He got the opportunity to go to Cleveland and be able to experience. It's not just being a part of the game. It's everything leading up to it. Even if you're a reserve, it's everything leading up to it. So I love it. Kyle Gibson is one that I feel should be on the All-Star team. Rangers feel pretty confident that he is. I feel about 90% confident, and the only reason that I'm not 100% is because every team, the whole one representative, and I don't know. I feel like based on the way the Rangers season is going, I don't know if this is going to be based on player voting or manager voting, that I feel like Kyle Gibson may get the shaft. Listen, I know Ian Kennedy is somebody that should deserve it as well. I don't think he's going to get in, and I don't think Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is going to get in. He should. He definitely should. My gut instinct telling me he's not, unfortunately. And who knows? Maybe there's an injury that does happen, and or maybe a player declines and Isaiah steps in. There's just that little itsy bitsy part of me with Kyle Gibson that he's gonna get screwed. But again, it's 90-10. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, and considering the Rangers season, the fact that you may have 2 All-Stars is pretty darn good. The 2019 or 2018, the Rangers only had 1, and that was Shin-Soo Choo. 2019, they had 2 in Joey Gallo and Hunter Pence. So the fact that you have a Ranger pitcher that's an All-Star in Kyle Gibson, that's pretty fantastic. Home Run Derby, Adolis Garcia needs to be in it. Major League Baseball already has 4 participants, which I agree with all 4. That's great. I mean, who doesn't want to watch Ohtani in an All-Star? I'm kind of surprised that Ohtani does want to, and this is kind of the other reason that Joey doesn't, is because of the aftermath. He's talked to some people and the aftermath of doing the Home Run Derby, and I think he's taking a bit of precaution. And so that's why I'm a little surprised that Ohtani is going to, but maybe I have a feeling it's a 1 year type thing for Ohtani. This is the year I'm going to do it. All right. Buckle up. Trevor Story, of course, you want to have that Colorado representation in the Home Run Derby. So Trevor Story is going to. Trey Mancini, great story. Love hearing that. So I'm all for that. And then Pete Alonso of the Mets. Those are the 4 100 representation. Adolis Garcia wants to be at the Home Run Derby. And so the only thing, and I tweeted this out earlier, the only thing that's going to hold him back is if somebody doesn't ask him. That's the only reason, unless, and I hate to say this, but I feel like I have to, unless he gets hurt. But the only reason Garcia is not going to be in the Home Run Derby is if he doesn't get asked. And if he doesn't get asked, that's an absolute travesty by Major League Baseball. The Major League Baseball doesn't want to branch out. Because Adolis Garcia has 20 homers. And the dude started 2 weeks late. And if you're not going to have him in the All-Star game, which, by the way, looking as of June 28th, Adolis is 6th in Major League Baseball at homers, tied for 6th with Matt Olson of the A's. And Vlad Guerrero Jr. has already said that he's not going to participate. And Fernando Tatis Jr., I believe, has already said he's not going to participate. So 2 of those 7 guys, if you want to count Olson, have already declined. Ohtani says he's going to. So that leaves you Schwarber and Acuna as the 2 guys that are above Adolis right now in homers. So yeah. And you have him that's saying, yeah, I want to do this. I want to see Joey, but I don't think that that's going to happen. I don't know if Joey's been asked. He probably has, but as mentioned earlier, he doesn't seem like he wants to. It's enticing with it being at Coors Field, but I could even sense by body language he's like, you know what, and he also said it's based on perception too. I don't want people to perceive me as a lefty that hits homers. And listen, like I understand that argument from Joey, but I don't think accepting or declining a home run derby is going to change that perception. I can understand the injury part, and I think that's kind of why Vlad Guerrero Jr., Fernando Tatis Jr., those guys wanted to decline. So I understand the injury part, where it's like, look, I've heard about other players. I don't want to screw up my season, and also because this is a big season, you know, and I'm thinking with Joey Gallo's current contract situation and the possibility of him being traded. I'm not saying that like his agent's telling him not to, but I think it's one of those where it's like, you know what, I have to think this is the type of year where I cannot screw up participating in a home run derby where I'm going to potentially tire myself out. And all of a sudden now, not only it's sort of a contract year for Joey Gallo, even though that contract year technically comes next season. But this is the season where everybody's keying in. It's a big trade deadline for Joey Gallo if the Rangers also want to keep him. So I think if Joey Gallo is going to participate at a home run derby, I think it'll be in a couple of years. If that happens, I don't think it's going to happen this year. It's a shame because I really think that he should participate. But again, different if somebody calls you and you decline than if you don't get called at all. If you want to see more about AllStar Game, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, I do have a story regarding why he and his teammates make a case for him for the AllStar Game, hoping that somebody, whether it's players or manager, reads that and realize this guy deserves to make the AllStar Game. Like I said, we're at the end of June. We're at the end of Pride Month. Another couple of plugs regarding what happened in the sports world. In case you guys don't know, Carl Nassib of the Las Vegas Raiders came out, and it was great. It was great to see from the whole world and kind of athletes reacting in a positive way. And I encourage you guys, if you haven't read, I got Chris Woodward and Kyle Gibson's perspective on his decision to come out and their opinion. I also have talking to a few players and coaches about what would happen, which coincidentally, I had talked to them the weekend before Carl Nassib came out, which was kind of weird. I mean, there's not a doubt in my mind that Carl Nassib did not read what happened, but it's pretty cool to kind of have that out. And then a couple days later, history is made. But I encourage you guys, talk to two players, talk to two coaches, young, older, and get their thoughts on that. And then of course, Pride in Los Angeles, Pride Night was fun. Had a great time and talked to, a couple of players regarding there. Again, all I'm going to say about that is that the Rangers, I'm deeply saddened that they did not hold a Pride night this year, and I say that in a past tense, not just because the home games in June are done, but it just seems like that's not going to happen this year, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. And it's very disheartening. I will say this is that one of the things that I had noticed, and when I talked to in LA, talked to some of the players, and it's hard because it's hard for them when you're asked something like, should the Rangers have a Pride night? You think that's a simple answer. But when you're in an organization where your ownership does not have a Pride night, and I don't know if any players actually read the Dallas Morning News article where they didn't even want to comment, you're kind of put in a situation of, well, I'm in a lose-lose situation, because as a player, if I'm asked that, should the Rangers have a Pride night, and I say yes, well, I'm betraying my organization. And if I say no, then that's signs of homophobia. So you're in a lose-lose scenario, but that's one where that's what your organization is doing. They're putting you in that situation where media will ask questions and you can't really answer them. And now you got to be careful what you say. So a note to Rangers ownership, if you want to avoid that, just hold it. Come on. Just hold a Pride night. You don't have to go all out. You don't have to, have rainbow colored jerseys, rainbow colored hats on the field. It can be a normal game. You can have a few events that happen in between innings, and maybe a cool graphic on there, and give a giveaway. And there you go. That's it. That's all you need to do. You don't need to go and do what the Dodgers did. You don't have to do that. You can go very basic, and that's it. And there may be some critiques, but at least you can say, hey, we held one, instead of being the only franchise that hasn't. But I do want to send an appreciation to the Rangers players, coaches that I did talk to this month, because I will say this, out of the 12 that I talked to, I think it was like 12, not one player or coach or manager deflected any of the questions I asked. And they could have just said, look, I don't want to comment. They could have just said, I don't want to talk about it. Because I would go up to them and I'd say, hey, can I talk to you about Pride Night in LA? Hey, can I talk to you about, with it being Pride Month? And they would have just said, no, I don't want to talk about that. So I want to give a commend to all of the players and coaches and managers that I talked to, because not one deflected any of the questions. I know that that's their job, but they can decline. They can decline that specific subject. So I will give it up to them. I know it may seem small to some of you guys listening, but just I feel like getting a response means a little bit more. So I want to give a thanks for that. Moving on, one thing also that I'm going to try to do, and again, these pod episodes, I want to get out about once a week, 1 to 2 times, once a week or once every 2 weeks, if I could do my math correctly. And so I'm going to introduce a new segment, or it's a segment that some of you, if you've watched the Wes Benjamin, Jose Trevino, Jared Sandler episodes of Rangers 7, where he has 7 random questions. This time, unfortunately, it was 6 because I can't count. And this one's a tough one because I was talking to Rangers outfielder Willie Calhoun. I talked to him the Friday, the day before he got hurt. There was some real bad news on that day, the day after, plus some really bad news on Monday, where he's undergoing surgery on Tuesday to repair I think it's Unla, fractured Unla or Unla. I'm not a doctor. On his left forearm. So this interview, may I remind you, came before he got hurt. I did not talk to him after he's gotten hurt. And so I'm going to try to get multiple guests throughout. And let's go ahead and get to Rangers 7.
All right, so I'm here with Rangers outfielder Willie Calhoun in the first initial of Rangers 7. Where Willie, I'm going to ask 7 random questions.
Okay.
They can be about anything.
Okay.
So first question is, have you or do you know of a teammate that did some weird-ass baseball ritual?
Weird baseball ritual. I'm trying to think. Weird. Maybe Verdugo. I know Albert always wore his left sock on his right foot and his right sock on his left foot because it says right or left on your socks. I know he did that. I'm trying to think of anything else weird. No, nothing else sticks out to me weird.
That works for me.
Yeah.
So it actually, he actually, would do it because it...
Yeah, because on our socks it's labeled like right and left. So he put his right sock on his left foot and his left sock on his right foot. Yeah, and I don't know. He always does that. I don't know any other.
Have you
baseball.
tried that once?
No, never.
Okay.
I'm not a superstitious guy, so I don't really have any rituals that I do.
What's the unpopular food opinion that you have that? So an opinion that you have that a lot of people would be.
Avocados and guacamole. I don't like avocados or guacamole.
Bro.
Yeah, I don't like that. Everyone's
totally
like, bro, how are you in California and you don't like guacamole or avocado? I'm like, I just don't like it.
I have a sister-in-law that's from Mexico.
Oh, really?
So she doesn't like it when I say that.
Yeah. I'm like, fuck that. I'm good off that.
What is a song on your playlist that you have that not a lot of people would expect you to have?
Probably country. People probably wouldn't expect me to listen to country, but I have a few country songs on there. I'd say that, yeah. Chillin' It by Cole Swindell, probably. Yeah, no one would probably expect that from me, but I mean, I have some country songs on there.
So you're a gamer. So who and you can even include yourself on here, Who would be, because I like to think of a true gamer as somebody that not only is good, but can teach others to be good.
Okay.
So if you were to teach me, Call of Duty, which I'm not totally in it.
Yeah.
Who out of your team, you can even include yourself, would be the best to do that?
I'm the best gamer in the whole. I think I'm the best gamer in all professional sports, to be honest. I'm calling anyone out there in professional sports that I'm the best gamer of all around sports. I don't know. I mean, I've always been in the video games ever since I was a little kid, so it's something that I take pride in. I don't play during the season though. That's the thing. So I mean, right now I'll probably be terrible, but give me a week or two to get back in the hang of things, I'll be good. But yeah, no, it just all depends on the game though. I'd say. I mean, it's just all preference really.
Well, could you teach somebody like me to be one tier below you?
No, I'm not a good teacher. I can't. That's why I don't think I'll ever be a good coach. I'm not a good teacher. I can just do things that I'm naturally good at and not translate it, I guess. So, yeah.
No, I totally understand. I'm like that too.
Yeah.
So which out of your team is low-key hilarious?
Low-key hilarious.
So funny guy?
Low-key?
It doesn't really, but you don't, the outside wouldn't even think that.
Probably Izzy. Yeah, I mean, Izzy comes off as a serious dude, but he can be low-key funny. Just an under-the-radar funny, I guess. Yeah, Izzy.
Everything about Izzy is under the radar.
Yeah, under the radar, yeah.
That almost needs to be his nickname as far as players we can
Yeah,
go.
for real, I agree.
And then last one is, as far as, if I asked you, I said, Willie, I'm going out to the club tonight, and I need a wingman.
Okay.
Who would you recommend out of the Rangers?
Probably Joey. Yeah. Joe can be a good wingman, and you just need a talkative guy, and Joey's talkative, so yeah, I'd say Joe. Yeah.
All right. So I want to thank Willie Calhoun, and also we're getting down to the point again, as I mentioned, Thursday, after Thursday's game, we will hit the halfway point of the season. And All-Star Game upcoming. We got a little West Coast trip, so grab some coffee, grab some tea, grab some caffeine because you guys will need it. And if you want to follow the pod, you go to anchor.com. It's also available on Spotify Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and also on YouTube. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm at aPlinkTX on Twitter, aPlinkTEX on Instagram. And for more Texas Rangers news, you can go to DallasSportsFanatic.com/Texas-Rangers. Again, guys, apologies about the scarcity between episodes. Again, trying to make this a weekly type thing, if not weekly, every 2 weeks. Finally got it right that time. And Ranger fans, hang in there. It was a good weekend. Hope everybody enjoyed it in Kansas City. It was a fun one to be recognized on national television on Saturday regarding the Rangers' blowout win against the Kansas City Royals on FS1. And we could be talking about an Adolis Garcia All-Star trip. Guys, enjoy the West Coast and possibly some rain in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Thanks, guys.